Okay, well, finally New Year's. We have finally left 2017 behind. For some of you that might have been a good year, some of you that might have been a bad year. Pretty decent year for me, but you know what it was a really good year for, actually? Movies. There were so many great movies that came out this year. I spent a lot of time and money in a movie theater. I saw 14 movies in theaters this year. So since I saw more than 10 movies in theaters this year, I figured, why the hell not? Let's do a top 10 list. Before we get started, got a couple disclaimers. Number one, I didn't see every single movie that came out this year, even though I saw a lot of movies that came out this year, but I didn't see all of them. So there might have been a really good movie that came out like sometime in, I don't know, April or something that I never went and saw. And, you know, I probably would have loved it, but I didn't see it, so it's not on the list. Sorry. Number two, I'm not a professional film critic. I didn't get paid to do this, and I had to buy every single ticket out of my own pocket. So, I don't know, the methods I choose for what was the best movie of 2017, you're probably going to disagree with. You might think my number 10 was the greatest, my number 1 was the worst. Whatever, it's my own personal opinion. Top 10 movies of 2017. Here we go.
Number 10.
We created them. But now, we will bring an end to their kind.
Number 10, War for the Planet of the Apes. So if you don't know, War for the Planet of the Apes is the conclusion of Caesar's story, which began all the way back in 2011's Rise of the Planet of the Apes, was continued in 2014's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and is now ending in 2017's War for the Planet of the Apes. And these movies are how you do a reboot, or prequel, or however they relate to the original, but they are fantastic. Now that being said, I feel like out of the three, War just didn't do it for me. It just felt like, the first act was slow. They wanted you to build this connection to Caesar's family that I guess maybe I should have watched Dawn before I did this one. But I just felt almost kind of lost before the first half. But once it gets into the second half, though, that's when it starts to get going. The second half of this movie is actually really good. Before that, though, you might as well just skip to the second half.
Number 9.
There's no hiding from this, son. We have a job to do. Turn it around!
We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender. We shall never surrender.
Number 9, Dunkirk. On the 8th day, God gave us Christopher Nolan movies, and they were good. So the one thing that I loved about Dunkirk above all else was the sound design. Holy mother of God. This is a war movie that makes you feel like you are actually being shot at. From the opening scene, you almost feel the bullets whizzing past you as they collide in the metal and everything else behind you, shredding wooden doors and whatever else they're hitting. It's a war movie that is extremely well crafted, although I feel like my main criticisms for it come from the story structure. Beginning, it says something like the mole 1 week, the sea 1 day, and the air 1 hour. Didn't really explain what that meant. I kind of forgot about that until the end of the movie, and then I looked online and saw a Reddit comment that explained what that was. That's the length of the battle for each. I do gotta mention that it tells its story through a bit of a time-jumping method where it picks different characters and like sees what they saw in that part of the battle through different periods of time. I didn't really notice it was doing this until about halfway through. Kind of confused me. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. In fact, I'm not really the biggest fan of any time this is done in movies. Whatever. As great as Dunkirk's sound design was, its story was a little muddled. Number 9.
Number 8.
Ready? And action!
What line? What line?
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Okay.
Number 8, The Disaster Artist. Okay, so if there's anyone watching this right now who has never seen Tommy Wiseau's The Room, I highly urge you to stop what you're doing, turn this video off, and go find that movie, because I guarantee you it will be one of the most unique things you have ever seen. The Room was a 2003 love triangle dumpster fire passion project directed by Tommy Wiseau, who invested $6 million of his own money into the project, and it released into a theater. It grossed a grand total of $1,800 and opened to astoundingly negative reviews. One of the reviews said this movie is like getting stabbed in the head. So after about 2 weeks in theaters, The Room quietly disappeared. But did it go away? Oh no. Tommy Wiseau kept a billboard up for 5 years. And over the next 10 years after its release, it developed a bit of a cult following, with people going to screenings all over the country bringing spoons, footballs, and anything else from the movie they could. Long black wigs were common as well. People would also quote lines with the same frequency as Star Wars lines. In 2013, Greg Sestero, one of the co-stars of this movie, released a book called The Disaster Artist, which detailed the forging of a friendship and how this movie was even made. Now in 2017, the Franco brothers have finally released their adaptation of that book. And while it does streamline a lot of stuff to actually get all the content into 2 hours, it still does keep most of the story intact. And to anyone who has or has not seen The Room, it's a pretty entertaining tale of a really bizarre friendship and an even bizarrer movie.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Number 7.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real.
Number 7. Logan. Hugh Jackman really picked a high note to end his career on, didn't he? But Logan is a bit of a Western superhero drama, and I've always thought that superhero movies really work well when they're paired with another genre, and I feel like Logan really proves that. Logan is the story of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine traveling from the Mexican border to the Canadian border to escort this young girl named Laura as she's pursued by dark forces. The R rating absolutely makes the film what it is. There's so many bloody, violent scenes of Wolverine in X-23 just shredding and decapitating people. And I have no idea how we did Wolverine before this, because this is Wolverine. This is what Wolverine can do. But before that, we had PG-13 Wolverine. That feels like holding back. Anyways, the point is, Logan is a step in the right direction for superhero movies, and I really hope we get more like this in the future.
Number 6.
What happens when another Georgie goes missing? Or one of us? Are you just gonna pretend it isn't happening like everyone else in this town? If we stick together, we'll win.
Number 6. It. You'll Float Too. Now this movie, I didn't know where to put this on my list at first because I walked out of the theater totally creeped out and totally just, no. But since it's a horror movie, that was the goal. So the real star of It was not Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise the Clown. No, it was these 7 members of the Losers Club. The kids, who act like real kids. They swear, they make jokes, they jab at each other, they talk like real kids. And it makes it feel real, and the relationships between them feel real as they grow and try to fight this monster that no one else in their town seems to be accepting even is there. All the adults in this movie, no, they don't straight up deny Pennywise's existence, but they just act like nothing's happening. Kids go missing left and right, and none of the adults seem even the slightest bit concerned. So It is a fantastic coming-of-age horror story. If you are interested in Stephen King at all, if you're interested in horror at all, I'd highly recommend you go check it out.
Number 5.
What is your name?
Baby.
Your name's Baby. B-A-B-Y, baby.
In this business, the moment you catch feelings is the moment you catch a bullet.
All right, now we are into the top 5. Here we go. We are getting down in there. So, number 5, Baby Driver. Driver holds the distinction of being the only wholly original movie on this list. That means it is not based on a comic book, not a sequel, not a reboot, not part of a franchise, not based on true events. Nothing about this movie is based on anything else. This is the only wholly original movie I saw this year, and I'm glad I did because it was really, really good. Baby Driver tells the story of a young getaway driver named Baby who meets the girl of his dreams in a diner and tries to get out of the criminal business his life had been sucked into. Although, as we all know from any crime movie ever, that doesn't work like that. One of the things I absolutely loved about Baby Driver was the fact that it seemed to have an ending. Yes, it didn't try to set up for sequels, it didn't try to set up for, an extended universe or a cinematic universe or some kind of franchise or whatever. It told the story it wanted to tell, and at the end of it, it felt like it ended. I felt like I got resolution on this story, which is something you really don't see in theaters that often. And walking out of this one, I was like, oh my god, I forgot what that feels like. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because a lot of movies I put above Baby Driver do that, but it's very refreshing to get the entirety of a story in just one movie.
Number 4.
That was so intense. I can't even with this place.
Watch your step in here.
Number 4, Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. This was actually the last movie I saw in theaters this year. I saw it a couple weeks ago. And I am very, very glad I did because this was actually a really fun movie. This is probably the best video game movie I have ever seen. And that's because it's not based on a specific video game. These characters get sucked into this video game world and they play it like a video game. They have special abilities, they find power-ups, they have a set number of lives. And even like a lot of video games, the villain is pretty underdeveloped, which I felt kind of worked because it felt like a more realistic video game. As someone who's played a lot of video games, there were so many moments where they would try to do something and I'd be like, no, do that. It was almost like watching a really expensive Let's Play, but it was a really good one. This movie was fantastic. If you like video games in the slightest, or if you've even played a video game, go see the new Jumanji. You will not be disappointed.
Number 3.
Wonder Woman, rated PG-13.
Here we go, top 3. Number 3, Wonder Woman. Finally, DC knocks one out of the park. Wonder Woman kills it and is by far DC's best since The Dark Knight. After the struggles with Batman v Superman and Suicide Squad, I was honestly getting really, really worried about DC's future because I really do like DC. But they managed to knock it out of the park with Wonder Woman. Now, this review is coming after they did Justice League, which I didn't see, but the reviews did not seem as high as Wonder Woman. So, I don't know, they'll find their footing. But Wonder Woman succeeds, Wonder Woman knocks it out of the park. And like what I said with Logan earlier, Wonder Woman takes place in a World War I setting. This is a superhero war movie, and it's a damn good one. Alright, DC finally hits the nail on the head, and honestly, I think that's because they managed to just do one character. They were trying so hard to set up like this cinematic universe for all these characters, but they needed to just stop and focus on one character at a time. Because the last movie they did that with was Man of Steel, and before Wonder Woman, that was actually their highest reviewed. Check out Wonder Woman because it's a fantastic superhero movie, and one of the best I've seen in a long time.
Number 2.
Where is he?
The future of the species is finally unearthed.
Number 2, Blade Runner 2049. This movie actually crept up the list throughout the year. I saw this movie a little after it came out, and I was not the biggest fan of it at first. But the more I think about it, and the more it grows on me, the more I realize it was actually one of the best movies of the year. Blade Runner 2049 is the type of movie that needs to be made more often. This is not really just a movie, this is a film. This is a story presented visually. And visually it is. This movie is visual art. Every single frame of this movie is a work of art. A beautiful painting, well crafted to tell this story that it's trying to tell. And it works. It's so beautiful. The more I think about this movie, the better it gets. Overall, Blade Runner 2049 is one of the best made movies of the year, one of the best looking movies of the year, and one of the most atmospheric movies of the year. Now, I don't know if this is a movie that everyone will like because it's pretty slow and the pacing is pretty at times, but if you do love movies and you know how to sit down and appreciate a movie that's about 3 hours long and kind of slow at times, this is a movie for you.
Number 1.
Somebody please get this man a gun.
You stabbed the devil in the back. To him, this isn't vengeance. This is justice.
Here we are. Number 1. John Wick Chapter 2. John Wick Chapter 2 gets the number 1 spot because it was the only movie I walked out of theaters this year. From the moment I walked out of theaters, gave it a solid 10 out of 10. Everything about this movie was perfect. I loved every single thing that happened in this movie. I had a blast with this movie. It was a goddamn adrenaline rush, and it was fun. Remember that Vader scene at the end of Rogue One? That's what this movie felt like to me in its entirety. John Wick Chapter 2 is a thrill ride, a crazy dance of bullets, cars, knives, and most importantly, pencils. And I know I mentioned this with Baby Driver, but they are setting up for a sequel for John Wick Chapter 3, which is one of my most anticipated movies in a long time. So congratulations, John Wick Chapter 2, number 1 movie of 2017. Alright, so that's it for my top 10 of 2017. I imagine yours are probably different, so go ahead and leave some comments below if you feel like you got something to say. But other than that, thanks for watching.